Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. Got with me BK in the house.
How you
Good
doing?
morning, brother. How you doing?
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday on Memorial Day weekend.
Oof.
This is at the time of the recording right now. It's the Saturday Memorial Day weekend. We got the barbecue, Memorial Day barbecue coming up with the Murph, the optional Murph. Everybody's like, I don't want to have to do the Murph, whatever. If they don't want to work out that hard because it's challenging, but we have a barbecue get together. Man, we have good numbers on that. What'd you guess?
It always feels to me like 100 plus by the time you get friends and family and kids.
Kiddos and all that stuff. And it's just an amazing patriotic thing that just kind of happened. We just did it. And now it's become an annual thing. And there's American flags and there's barbecue and there's exercise and there's kids running around and there's
Doggies,
prizes. Yeah. And we put the emphasis on why we're doing it. So I'm excited about it, especially this year. It seems like every year it gets better. So, quick shout out to Able Nation, our sponsor, able-nation.org. Again, I say this many different ways. Last time I was like, give money to them. I just absolutely believe it. So fighting for good, like providing resources towards this specifically, protecting our nation's children. I can't think of many better. You know what I mean? As far as protecting, it is the big one's responsibility to protect the little ones. So we are leading in that. Please prayerfully consider supporting that. Contact Neil at able-nation.org. All right, brother. We're going to get to this one. It's amazing how these things just happen, how God places you in a place at a certain time. I was honored to be invited by Tony Gonzalez, which is the representative for the Uvalde, Texas district.
Wow. Okay.
And also
invited to
Washington D.C. to talk, with one of the offices of the House of Representatives, Jared Maskowitz, I believe, is the other representative from Parkland, Florida. Okay. So you got two representatives from districts that have a horrible history, meaning there was some kind of active shooting in a school, and it was just tragic, and it was horrible, and it was failures. It was failures within their district, and what I thought I was coming to was a discussion about, and I shouldn't say that. My hope is that this will be an ongoing thing where we get to some solutions. Yeah. It was scheduled for the 1-year anniversary to the day of the Uvalde shooting. It's already been a year, right? That stings a bit because you're like, now we're meeting a year later, and it's almost like it's been a year. What do we do? Yeah. We should probably call some people and meet. It's like, wow, I know there's other stuff going on, but man, that is this going to be a PR thing? Is this going to be what we call dog and pony? It's like, get the cameras in here. Let's bring in some experts. Op, yeah. Is it a photo op? And then time will tell what happens next. Yeah. So I fly out there. Financially that costs us money. It's me out of pocket for a couple of days, going to DC and all this. Glad to do it, to be a part of something that's going to be something. If it's just a photo op, maybe not so much. But I go out there, and even if that meeting hadn't happened, have you ever walked the monuments at night?
I know I have, but I know there's more to this story.
Oh, man, it's just good.
And by monuments, Lincoln, Jefferson.
Yeah, memorials, monuments.
Washington Monument.
I take off. My phone's about to die. I'm sitting there having some dinner right by the hotel. And then I'm like, man, I'm going to go charge my phone because I want to take pictures. And I just want to go walk and just be quiet, right? So just being silent and walking for up until, probably after midnight is when I finally wrapped it up. And I'm heading down and just, at first it was Washington. I took a cab or Uber down and I got out right near the Washington Monument. And the thing's just massive. When you're looking at it, it's unbelievable. And I should have looked this up because there's a plaque on the east side of it. There's a plaque. And it says something like, may the Lord protect us. And it's the first thing that the sun hits in Washington, D.C.
Every morning.
Right? It's just like as the sun comes up, it hits that, and then it hits everything else. And I think that's just an amazing statement. Yeah. And I'll have to find out what exactly that plaque says. But that's very, very cool. That's well thought out. Then I worked my way around to the World War II Memorial. I remember when they were making that with the fountain and the States and all that kind of stuff. I donated, and you know how you can. What do? You honor somebody. It was my grandfather,
sure.
in World War II. And at one point you could go up and type in his name and it would come up and all that stuff. So that was very cool. I remember when that was all being built. So just hanging out and just seeing that and seeing couples walking around and individuals, there's some photographers, but it's late at night and it's dark. And it's just, quiet, everything's different peaceful. And it's quiet. You hear the fountain and that's about it. People whispering. Move my way down the reflection pond and walking along that thing. You start seeing, on one side you've got the Washington Monument, on the other side it's Lincoln.
Capitol.
And so you start walking up there, and that just, it looks small because you're far away, because that's a big point. You don't really, put it in context. As you start walking that way, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And something about those steps leading up to, and then old Abe sitting there, and then what's actually, chiseled into the granite, I believe it's granite, on the left and right, and just taking the time and just by yourself and just read through that and let it sink in. And it couldn't be more applicable. Like every time I read it, it's like, wow, this is more powerful. I need to remind myself of this, So fantastic. And then left there and then finished at the, took a picture of the 3 soldiers, the Vietnam memorial, and just walked that. And then just, it sinks in all of these names. So in the context of what's going on today, it's a little bit, it's somber, it's depressing, because what have we done, right? But this duty, it like fills you like, I leave there. First, it's a little sad, and then it's like, hand me my mouthpiece. It's like, not on my watch.
Yeah.
We're freaking doing this, and we're going to do it our way, the way that we see most effective. And then it gets me ready for what I'm going to say the next day. And I don't have a big window, right? These are like way too many people for the time allotted, and you get a snippet. And I've told you and others, I had to speak faster than I'd ever spoke, and that's saying something, right? Because I'm like,
that's speed talking.
It's like if you slow down and articulate every single word for them, you get this much message out, Or you get everything you can. Jason was like, get everything you can on record. What's heard can't be unheard. Like if I can, just shotgun blast you with information that is the truth, you can't unhear it. And it might not sink in for a month or a year or 5. I hope it's not the next time we see these guys is the 2-year anniversary of Uvaldle, right? So I wanted to throw this out there because on Facebook I posted this with some pictures. They're just, our phones are amazing. I just pull it out and take some pictures at night. I wanted to capture it, right? But then when I looked at them the next day, I'm like, man, this is legit. I wrote this. I've been here many times, but this time feels different. A deep sense of pride walking the monuments at night previously has turned into a sense of sorrow. Like a warrior once defending strength, somehow became an enabler for weakness. Yet an overpowering sense of duty remains. Father, forgive us for what we've done with this nation. Then, in the middle of the night at the Lincoln Memorial, I'm reminded of these words. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they have fought here. I'm going to do this over because we're going to have to edit it. I should have read this before. Okay, here we go again. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated. Man, I'm screwing this up. Well, let me read through this real quick, and then I'm going to read it again. For us to be here dedicated to the great. This is a great way to write, but it's hard to read, especially from my mind. Okay, I'm going to try to put my pauses in and get this exactly right because it deserves it. Okay. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work with which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln. It is on us, the living. This is me again. It is on us, the living. When our fallen look down, they will see me fighting for what is right, meaning righteous, until I join them. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. How did we forget that?
I don't know. It's one thing, maybe it's age, maturity, experience that I'm starting to see. The fight never ends. Every single day, whether you went off, fought battles for this country, my dad served, your grandfather served, it never stopped. It's almost a relay race. You must stay vigilant. You must stay on top of it. You must continue to attack. Otherwise, your freedom will be taken away. Guaranteed. And it breaks my heart a little bit because now my son has picked up that baton and he's got to carry it forward. His son is probably going to have to keep carrying that battle. But it's a fight worth fighting. And thankful and appreciative for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice so we can sit here and have a free speech conversation about how important it is.
For now, right? It's because it is. It seems common sense, and you're like, how did we forget that? Meaning, I don't think people forgot it. If you asked them, they'd say the right thing, but they're not living it. We're not living like that. We're not living like, hey, this has been bought and paid for. Like these people paid for this freedom, and when the baton comes to you, you're busy holding your latte, and you're like, somebody else will do it. Like it's got to be an all-in thing. Conversation I had last night. I was at a dinner, and then obviously we had the mix last night, and there were people there. Speaker was Ted Harvey. We can't elect a savior. We can't elect someone to fix this. It's got to be the people. It's got to be, our government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. We don't want it to be of the people. We want somebody to fix it. It's that instant gratification. Well, if we just elect the right person, this will all be fixed. It doesn't matter who we elect. It doesn't matter. Like it won't fix it. Now, I'm going to vote for people that aren't going to kill babies. I'm going to vote for people that are righteous. And I hate that it's a lesser of two evils. I hate that term. Like I don't want to vote for evil. So people do need to stand and be better. They just need to be better people. And then if everybody's better people, there's a better pool to draw from. And then we pick one that's awesome and call them a representative. And then that representative continues to represent us. But that feel of going to D.C. and seeing this game and how it's played, and I've heard people say, well, we could do what's right, but that's not going to get us as far down the field. Well, you've already lost. Yeah. Like if you haven't done what's righteous, you've already lost. Yeah. We came up with that T-shirt I've been wearing, sparked a lot of conversation. Good equals godly, right equals righteous. And I love it because people are saying, well, that was good. I go, was that godly? Is that what you meant? They're like, no, that's not what I meant. I'm like, well, that's what the word means. Or I just want to do what's right because this is what's right. I'm like, you mean what's righteous? Because I agree we should do what's righteous. Well, I didn't mean that. Well, that's what it means. So what's your definition? Well, I don't really have one. What feels right? I'm like, that's not a thing, right? Yeah. So that's just a big deal.
Morning. One thing I've noticed through let's say the training the last 5 or 6 years, way early on, there was a comment about somebody's getting beat up on a bus or somebody's acting unruly on an airplane. If one person stands up to confront, number 2, number 3, number 4 will pop up and follow. And if I can go back a couple minutes on your conversation, it starts in your house and you stand up and you figure out what's important to you and what you want to fight for. And then your neighbor or your friend or somebody, now there's 2 and 3 and 4 of you who are taking action and now picking the people you want to represent you in government.
Yeah.
It has to start in the house. And to your point, some savior's not going to float down and show up on TV that everybody's going to magically vote for. It's going to take somebody who doesn't have a popular opinion, who's willing to fight the hard fight and say the hard words.
Yeah. Then starts getting into Antichrist. You're like, wait a minute. Now somebody comes up and says what you want to hear, but it's not in line with my definition of the truth would be the Bible, right? Yep. And I would say, what is yours? And they say, well, I don't have one. Okay, I'm making mine up as I go. That just doesn't seem like a real answer, right? Yeah. It's like, so now it's a feeling thing, and because you were damaged, there's wounds in your life, man or woman, there's wounds in your life that are shaping, that's why you're basically pissed, right? So now you're going, wherever the wind blows you, right? And that doesn't seem solid to me. That's not one of my favorite words right now, sustainable. That's not sustainable. That's going to lead us, well, it's going to lead us back here, right? So it's not working out. Something you said reminded me of this, a video that I saw, and it was on a subway. I don't know, I'm guessing New York, but there's a guy standing there, and he's got like the they call it a wife beater, like the tank top, right? Yeah. So it's a tank top, and there's this big yoked black guy, and he's got like a ninja mask on. And everybody's standing there, and he just walks up, and I don't know what he says to the guy, but the guy's eating food or something, and he knocks the food out of his hand, grabs his shirt, and just rips it completely off his body. So now the guy's not wearing, and the guy's like, ah! And he takes off, and the guy's kind of following him, and he's literally throwing other people in between him, like, beat up this guy, like hiding behind them, and everybody's running. It's like cockroaches when you turn the lights on, and they're like, but there's so many of them, right? To your point, it's like you're on your own, dude. And everybody's like, nobody's standing up for anybody. This guy's clearly out of his mind, and he's attacking somebody, and people are like, man, that's your problem. I got nothing for you.
Let me film it.
Yeah, somebody's filming it. He's like, I'll help. That ain't helping, man. It's like, no, I'll turn this into the police after you're dead. Well, that didn't help.
Stop the problem.
It's like, yeah. So it is. And it's infectious because that's what I'm seeing again and again and again is weakness after weakness after weakness. And people have lied and said that strength is toxic. No. I think it was Jordan Peterson that said something to the effect of, if you're afraid of strong men, wait till you see what weak men will do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's these things that are happening, like the toxic masculinity, those are weak men. Those aren't strong men, right? So I know too many tough guys, not enough strong men. Right? So if you had strong men that were self-controlled, that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control, if that was your grade card, and that was you're doing pretty good, even mediocre with it, that's strength. That is the definition of strength. So when people are weak, they get scared, they hurt other people, hurt people. That is not strength, right? So the world's starting to believe this lie that no, strength is toxic, the strength is whatever, these trigger words, I don't know if you heard about that. At my church, which is called Brave Church, one of the trigger words that was listed in this book was brave. Like that might trigger somebody. American, that might trigger somebody. Somehow that says we're better than the other American countries. There's South America, there's Central America. Like what's happening right now? We're being just reprogrammed. So the morning comes. I put my suit on, which as you know I hate. For me, Able Shepherd formal is the suit jacket part.
First time I've ever seen you in a tie.
I was like, what? You're like, well, Jimmy Graham owns a tie, right? I have my little red, white, and blue thing going on. Red tie, blue suit, white shirt, whatever. And for around here, Able Shepherd formal means nice jeans. Like, cowboy boots and a shirt with buttons on it.
With buttons.
And then a suit jacket, right? But no tie, right? Yeah. So, but I know where I'm
You're
going.
In D.C.
So I'm in D.C. So put on the costume, and it's nice. Obviously to look nice. So I go in there, and it's amazing these buildings. You walk in and it just kind of blows you away. It's just like extravagant. Go in there. There's all the people we start meeting. They greet us, set us down. The representatives walk in there, and it is. Starting to feel a little bit like there's cameras, there's all the aides sitting in there, and then there's problems. There's technical difficulties with the people that kind of zoomed in. It's not Zoom, but I'll call it Zoom. They zoom in.
Video conferences.
And now they can't get this to work, and they can't that. And it's just like the people that they put on there. Some of these people have nothing to say. It's and it was a teacher from whatever, and it's just kind of like are we going to get to the let's get to the meat of, it's important that this person's here because they were there, and this person, like, is it really? Like, it's I get it. And other people who lost children, or a guy who lost his son is there. And now it's like they're referring to them enough to where it's like, I understand that this is a horrific thing that happened, but we should focus that it doesn't happen again. Yeah. And now you're just, the superintendent from Uvaldle, which I met while I was in Uvaldle and talked, and it's a horrific day, and everybody's like, it's horrific. And it's a comfort session now. And then it's my turn. And I'm literally getting edgy because they've been talking, the representatives talk on every point, they chime in and get their words in, and there's pictures and all that, but it's like, hey, to me personally, if I wanted to learn from someone, you would talk. Like, I'd be like, okay, learn, teach me a thing because there's a problem and I'm not an expert. Many times they said the experts. A panel of experts that you collect, and we want to hear from you because we need to get to the solutions. And they were giving me trying to cut me off at 3 minutes, like under 3 minutes. Wow. So you got 3 minutes, right? So, and knowing this, because I see how this is going, I'm like, I need to just shotgun as much information as I can go like right now. Yeah. So I just blast into it, and then somehow in 3 minutes I cover building schools differently. That concept of building a structure that's built with protective in nature, where the walls say to get to them, you got to go through me, right? With the manning of people said, I've talked to local representatives and said, what if I could show you something that would provide a 30-second response time in any school on any school day? Yep. And they kind of roll their eyes like, yeah, no, that'd be great. And then I explain it and they go, wow, that would actually work. Like that, let's talk more about that. And then the conversation kind of ends because something else comes up. They lose interest and they just go, not even lose interest. There's just a lot going on. Everybody likes to say, including my school, other schools, that safety is our top priority. Is it? Is it?
Show me.
You know what I mean?
Show me.
So everybody likes to say that because that's the thing you're supposed to say, but your actions dictate it. And I know there's no unlimited budget where you're going to go build this thing, but is the safety your top priority? Like, is it really? Or is convenience your top priority? Because a lot of times, man, people buzzing at the door, that becomes like, I just go to schools all the time and I get buzzed in. They don't know me from Adam, and I get buzzed in before I even have a chance to speak. Now you're going to ask them to do it twice, to put in a man trap, vestibule, Sallyport, whatever, to make them buzz in twice. You would think that you're asking them to tear down the walls, right? You're like, hey, buzz somebody in. They come in, the door locks behind them, then buzz them in, so nobody can piggyback.
You have so much experience, let's just say embassies overseas, protecting dignitaries. Why are our children not dignitaries to start with?
Yeah.
And why not take that hard stance, that hard line, that unpopular opinion that, the front door probably should be locked? And in our previous podcast, very quick analysis, opinion, comments about what was done right and what was done wrong. And it's clear as day. And the people who did it right saved some lives without any question. So this model is out there. It's ready for public consumption. It's what you've been teaching since I've known you, at least 10, maybe 15 years. It is there. It is available. These people need to hear it, digest it, and put it into practice. It's much more than a Zoom call on Capitol Hill. It is pick a school, do the training, implement. Let's see how it works.
Consider we just hold on to one check that we're going to send to Ukraine, and let's just start with the security that I went through getting into this building. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that, there were people there, and they had guns on, and they made sure they checked my stuff, and then I could walk in and come talk to you, right? So. We've said this many times and you just alluded to it. We're very good at this when it comes to politicians or our money, right? If there's a lot of money or there's, someone important, because that's air quotes right there for those listening, then we do it anyway, but not for our kids. So, that just says that you're more important than my children, so you should probably be protected. Money's more important than my children, it should probably be protected, right? So, again, saying true words out loud. So building schools differently, self-assessments. The Secret Service was there. And the FBI jumped in and started into this active shooter thing. The assessments that I've seen with the FBI were the most embarrassing I've ever seen in my life. Like it's comical. It's comical because this is my perception, maybe I'm wrong. The FBI became a job. This came up. This is kind of cool. It's a board. I thought it was going to be like Point Break. And I was going to run around and shoot bank robbers. And now I'm sitting here and this sucks, right? Yeah. But now this defending kids thing is cool, man. Can I start a manual? Yeah, let's do that. Let's put a bunch of facts together. Let's go out and brief people on horrible ideas they can do in their churches and schools. Maybe they're better now, but when I saw them, they were just embarrassing, right? Well, now the Secret Service is doing that as well. And there's good data. There's data after data after data. When I say good data, it means probably true data, numbers-wise, but what am I supposed to do with it, right? So one example of data would be piece of data that comes out that people recite it like it's gospel truth is that glass doors, wooden doors doesn't matter because the data says that people don't go through doors. If they're locked, they just move on, right? They don't shoot their way. They don't break glass. They don't do all that stuff. This was recited to me, not too long ago. And then a week later, we see it on video, somebody shooting through glass, walking in and killing children, right? Which means the data just became garbage. Yep. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it couldn't happen. We say we always train for our last war. Right? What about our next war? What about having like fundamentals, principles that are solid enough that I can adapt to any situation, right? That's that forward thinking, that special operations is good at that. Like many organizations are good at that. But at least with the Secret Service, you're starting with protection. And I mentioned that. I was like, hey, what I'm talking about is protection. These people next to me, yes, they've got a book full of data. At least they've been trained in protection, so most of them. Let's start there. FBI, one, they've lost credibility across the board. And two, you're presenting garbage, right? And if you've got kids, you should feel bad handing me some of this stuff, right? So we went down that road. That's kind of how I started with the self-assessments. These assessments must be done. And the assessments, I told them, they're like, oh, we've got resources. We can send them. I guarantee the Secret Service does not have enough resources to go school to school. No. I promise you they don't, right? And because they're federal government, you want to break this but good, let the federal government take over, right? And there was kind of a cry through in that room of there should be more federal, there should be more federal. In emergency, there's a team that comes to respond. But you're talking about mental health professionals. Somehow there's going to be a team of feds that are trained in mental health care, like that's, again, air quotes, care. But you can't say true words to my kids. You're going to come in and read off the script and get another long list of who the shooter's probably going to be, or after a suicide, you're going to come in here and talk about mental health care, not pray with them, not tell them the truth, and not give them their self-worth, not do any of these things that is proven to be successful enough to build a nation. You can't do any of it. You just got to come in there with the party line and then watch them continue to deteriorate in front of you, because that's what's happening in our nation. So that part of it, I said assessments should be done for free. Like there's a thing in the military called self-aid, buddy aid, medic aid, right? So the medic aid is, there's only one or two medics depending on your unit, right? Yeah. So he's busy. He's got stuff going on. So if I can put pressure on my bleed, do it, right? And if you're there and you're not the medic and you just happen to be next to me, you help me, right? Because he's the most important guy, right, when it comes to somebody bleeding out, and he's helping save a life, and this isn't life-threatening, right? Yep. So self-aid, if I can help myself, do so. If a buddy, local, if you can help me, then that's the next best thing. Then let's go for extended resources, right? So when we start talking about federal teams coming in, I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking while they're going around the room talking, I'm like, guys, that's the job of the church. That's the job of your family. Like your family first. One, you get healthy, and if you can't, there's your family. They should be helping you, right? After that is the church, and the church is built for that. Like that's exactly the reason. Rely on the church and let them come in and do what they were designed to do, not a church, the church. And it should be your local church taking the lead on that. And then if there needs to be assistance, there's so much more before we jump to the federal government who's proven to break everything, like everything, right? Your job to defend the nation, right? But then to come in here and try to make my kid healthy when you're one of the most healthy organizations I can think of right now, right? So that was just unfortunate to see that when you know that's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere, right? Then I quickly show the USA standard, uniform, safe, and accurate. Yep. When the SEAL teams East and West Coast meet in Afghanistan, they're not training, they're working. Yeah. They show up on me, and then they're going because they've already done it. Like the time to train is over. The parking lot of an active shooter event is not the place to train. You say on me, and you take a step, and then they come with you, right? The defend training modules. We talked about run, hide, fight. We talked about assessments, and everybody's like, yeah, run, hide, fight. And I was like, but you can't say run, hide, fight. And somebody else said it in the meeting. We looked and people didn't know how to run, where to hide, or how to fight. They just said it. I go, that's not training. You can't just say it out loud and call it training, right? And then say, okay, we're good for a year because it's going to fail you miserably. It's not sustainable, and it's not going to perform on game day, right, on the test day. So we talked about that, the defend training modules. Defense, evacuate, fortify, emergency medical aid, notify others in your immediate area, and then dial 911. And I go, and here's the kicker, show me. Like, if you can show me a response, that's a pretty good start. But even with, we have law enforcement, we train law enforcement, we just trained another, show me. Like, I'm not saying good shot. I'm saying show me how you're going to go and secure that building. Show me how you're going to go and get my daughter, right? Yep. And that's where the wheels come off the bus. With a lot of these local training programs that we assessed one that was at my kid's school, failed miserably because they couldn't show me. And it doesn't mean me, it means all of us. Show me. They do it. And they fail, and there's serious safety issues with just the training. There's no way you're ready for the real thing. Right. This has been created.
The interesting part for me, at least, golly, seems like 100 years ago I was in school, but we had to get under the desks for a nuclear attack.
Yeah, I remember that. Duck and cover, man.
Like that desk is going to help a lot. But a fire alarm.
Yeah.
And then if in today's day and time, in this conversation, we're talking about active shooter, which one of those three, unfortunately, is most likely to happen? And why aren't you training to that?
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I saw fire at a school. I heard about it on the news.
When there's been good principles implied, that's why, I mean, if the fire stuff worked, right? It's like, that's why you haven't heard of a fire. That's why people don't burn up and whatever. They took some measures, and now this on the rise is this active threat. It doesn't have to be a shooter. It just means our children are being targeted. There's no question about that anymore. Our children and babies are being targeted in this nation. That's the deal. But if we say, okay, we're good at protecting our diplomats and our money. Okay, let's start there. Well, how did we get good? What are the processes to get good at that? Okay, let's just talk about GRS, Global Response Staff. Billions of dollars has gone into making people good at protecting this thing. So I said, this is already bought and paid for. So I know that money's the big, what's it going to cost? You already built it, right? Now this is what Abel Shepherd did. Take those principles, scale them, and place them over your home, over your business, over your church, over your school. Those principles fit, they've been bought and paid for. Right? Yep. So why wouldn't you start there? Like, let's recreate the wheel. Let's not actually. It's more efficient to take all this, trim it down without the grenade launchers and the machine guns and whatever. But at the principles, at the core level, they absolutely are proven. They absolutely work. Right? So let's get to doing that.
And what I'm hearing is you are now your own first responder. Could be a threat. Could be medic. Kids, adults are always getting themselves. You need to be prepared for each situation that's probably going to happen in your environment. Yeah. And you can't wait on the federal government to come save you.
We've used for years the term immediate responder, right? The first responder was kind of taken by cops and by EMS and all this other stuff. So we said immediate responder. You mean you're already there. Yeah. It's like, you know who's going to be there when you get hurt? You. You know what I mean? You are immediately there. Like, somebody's attacking me. Guess who's there? I'm there, right? The guy next to you. That guy's all ready. I would be an immediate responder right now. Somebody came in to stab you. I'm right here. I'm immediately ready. How about both of us fight the guy? That's probably better than just you, right? So that thing, that's an old way. You had to or you died, right? Let's band together. Let's fight. Everybody likes the whole Western movie where the whole town comes together and they take care of the bad guys. But a very important part of this, I think, is in the Boy Crisis is a book. He talks about, but in that Western, you got to go. Like, the guy who saved the town's got to leave now because you kind of scare us. Because once we get back to safe, you're kind of scary, so I'd prefer it if you ride off into the sunset, right? Because we ain't any more use for you anymore. Because, again, you're toxic. No, I'm not. It's like, if it's true strength, you're going to want me to stay here. Mm-hmm. Why? So we can keep the town safe, because the next bad guy is going to take it over again, right? And it shouldn't be just me. It should be you and you and you. So quit repeating lies. Together we are strong. Let's hold the town so we don't lose it again to the next knucklehead, right? So bought and paid for, apply the principles. Give the officers, if we've already bought and paid for this, meaning efficiency and training, why wouldn't you give it to the cops? Because you know what they said in Uvaldle? To my face, we weren't trained for this, right? That's not good. I'm like, why not? Yeah. The Parkland representative sitting there, and I said, have you heard of the Coward of Broward, like his county? It's not a good title, right? That guy, you're talking about mental health. He needs mental health care right now. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the whole world knows him as the Coward of Broward. And that is not a good title to have as a man, as anybody, right? And everybody in Uvaldle, where there's the world watched 77 minutes of video where you failed, man, I wouldn't be telling people I was there if I was a cop. Like, I was one of the guys there. You're like, wow, you're a scumbag, right? That's not fair. Because part of that is on the dude sitting next to me, the representative. Part of that is on the chief of police. Part of that is on the training department. Part of that is on every officer that knew that you weren't ready to go. But you were getting a paycheck and all this cool gear, right? But there was never a capability. How do I know? Because I've seen the video, right? So that's just the truth. And the truth hurts, and it should hurt. But if you do care about those people, let's, again, say true words. It wasn't fair. You weren't given the tools to be successful. Let's salvage you. We're not going to condemn you to hell. We're going to say, let's make it better, right? Let's ask for a little bit of grace, forgiveness. Let's start your training over from a ground level. Let's get a capability in there before you get a badge and a gun again, by the way, right? Because that's just, it wasn't fair. It was broken from the word go. So strength. I said, all this is pointing to strength. So as I'm going through and there's all this list of, I'm showing this and talking, I'm showing this, I'm talking, I'm showing, and I strategically put this there to where my Bible was the last thing. So on the table, I pull out and I said, I tap the Bible. I'm like, we've got to get back to the truth, right? So the question comes up, why wouldn't the principles that built our nation save our nation, right? So this is the truth. Again, bought and paid for, apply the principles. So GRS, bought and paid for by the principle, meaning the efficiency and training. Let's call it that, not GRS specifically, but efficiency and training that's already been bought and paid for. Why wouldn't you apply the principles, right? This Bible that's been bought and paid for, why wouldn't you apply the principles, right? This was always, there's nothing wrong with the bones. This has always been a good plan. We're simply not doing it, right? And everybody kind of knows it, but they don't know what to do. They want to talk and check a big box. We had the meeting. The meeting did next to nothing unless it goes to more in-depth stuff, because that model of that meeting was not efficient, not even a little bit. I told you've heard me say this, and I crammed so much into 3 minutes. It's insane. What are we doing? Because it dawned on me before, as I walked the monuments, as time in prayer. What am I going to say tomorrow to these representatives at our nation's capital? And it went right back to Shepherd. This is what I'm going to do, and you're invited. We're going this direction. We're going towards healthy, and you're invited. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not in charge of you. This is what we're doing, and it's working, and you should do something. I did say you'd be wise to do something similar. Like, this is where we're going to go. We're going to head down this road. And I go, this is what it looks like for us. This is our daily thing. When a shooter walks in, when a confused woman, and it's a woman, confused young lady walks into a church and starts shooting, I don't care about her, how she identifies. I don't care about her father. I don't care about her upbringing. On that day, you've identified as a threat. Threats need to be neutralized. We need to get better at neutralizing threats when they're taken aside. I go, so now, take away the day, I do care about all of those human beings that get to that state, how they get there. Back all the way up, start talking about their dad, start talking about their family. A stronger family unit, we need stronger people that will build stronger families that will raise children that wouldn't shoot at mine. Yeah. And it's not one or the other, it's both simultaneously. Yep. That's what I'm going to be doing, and you're invited, right? That's what you should. This is working. It's working in Colorado. And that model laid over this nation would work. How do I know? Because this truth tells me it would work, right? So you do have a right to defend yourself and your loved ones. And you do have a duty to build stronger. Man, is it Frederick Douglass that said, it is easier to raise strong children than to fix broken men, right? That's as true as the day is long. You've got to know that. You've got to understand that. When I said that I have my Bible, I go, yes, I know where I'm at, but we need to get back to this truth. Quit lying to these kids.
Yeah, and I hear you describe it also as it's easier to keep up than it is to catch up. Right?
Man, that's
Don't get caught behind.
And that's put some context behind that. Soft sand, it's anywhere in life, but soft sand runs in the SEAL teams at Buds, where everybody came from all over the nation, all over the world, to train here at what is going to be the hardest thing ever. So it's not like it's funny to me when people watch the Olympics and like, dude, why wouldn't that guy just pick it up at the end? Everybody's running with everything they have, right? You're like, man, at the end, I would just kick it up and pass that dude. You're like, that's what his plan was, right? Everybody's running as hard as they possibly can. So when you go to you see Buds and they're moving down the beach, they're not jogging, they're running, right? Yeah. They're running. And if you fall back, I said it's easier to keep up than to catch up. Because if you start falling back, there's a dude back there. This instructor is usually like the fast instructor that's running. This other guy, if you fall behind him, they call it the goon squad. Uh-oh. Like, you're about to go home. Like, don't fall. He knows his pace because he's a runner, and he's like, I know my pace, and if you fall behind me, you're going home. You fall behind him a couple times, right? You better pick it up on the next one. But as you start falling back, and you're just like, man, this is hard, so I'm just gonna rest for just a second, and then another second. But now you're behind the goon squad guy. And now you've got to, and he's not slowing down, by the way, right? Because he's a fit dude. Yeah. Now to get up in front of him, you're going to have to dig deeper than if you would have just kept up, right? So it might be undoable. You're going to have to go to superhuman to even get back to mediocre. You know what I mean? It's like for this group, right? So that's the thing. Easier to keep up than to catch up. It means you don't let it slip into neutral. Any forward gear. Some days if it's first gear, some days it's fifth gear, you need to keep moving forward, right? And it doesn't mean don't rest. And there's a amazing, I'll mess it up if I try to remember it, but it was something about on the plains of hesitation lay the blackened bones of those who, on the verge of victory. They're about to win. They sat down to rest, and in resting died. That doesn't mean don't rest. It means don't keep resting, right? You gotta rest. That's the truth. You must rest, take a breath, then you must stand again and get going. Because if rest becomes a lifestyle, look around us, man. It's milk and honey. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are in this state of rest, and people aren't moving forward. That's where you die. That's where they find your blackened bones. Right. So what that means for us is it's not, let's get a bunch of elite federal team mental health care professionals coming in to save the day. That's not the deal. It is we the people. It's our job. It's our problem. It's our solution, right? To be able to say, okay, how do we bring strength back into our communities? Well, one, go get healthy, you personally. Make a family that's healthy. Invite others into your family that's healthy, and that's called a community. And then get representatives to go represent a healthy community. Not get there and say, this is the game this is how the game is played, so this is how you got to do it. And I know it's not right, but we need to get further down the field. You've already lost, right? So you can't do that. I tell my kids, I'm not raising thermometers. I'm not raising thermometers. I'm raising thermostats. You walk in the room. You don't go into D.C. and see how it's done. You walk in the room and set the temperature. This is what I'm going to do. Try to keep up, right? And then boldly say that. Well, you're not going to get your bill passed. So be it. This is what I'm going to do. Got to compromise. I said, I don't want favors. I said this week. I don't want favors. I don't do favors. If you're going to support me, do it because it's the right thing to do. And I'll do likewise. Don't do me favors. I'm not doing you favors, right? So that favors get you in trouble just from the word go. So to have 1,000 healthcare, I said this in the room, I have 1,000 healthcare providers on board and then tie their hands. Doesn't work. Nope. That will fail you every single time. And how much do you really care about my kids, right? I care a lot about my kids. Last night we talked about this. I learned somewhere along the way that I actually care about people. And that sounds funny to say, right? But no. I don't have to know people, and I really care about you being stuck in the snow because I've been stuck in the snow, so I'm probably going to pull over, right? And I've done this many times recently, right? It just means, man, I know you're not my kid, but I care about this kid, so I'm going to step in and do something, right? It's adults, it's children, it's whatever. But what I've seen from working in so many schools is that counselors and school resource officers have a list as long as your arm of who the next shooter is going to be. Wow. And they can do next to nothing. They can walk in, talk to them. Sometimes that's effective. I don't want to discount counseling, right? So counseling, people do need to talk and get this out, but there's no way we can create counselors on par with what the problems we're making. So we're mass producing weakness, dangerous weakness.
Stamping it out.
And we're trying to keep up, but to me, a strong counselor would speak the truth. Like if they believed it, they would do it. Like I asked this lady, can I ask you as a healthcare professional, can I ask you a question? When there's suicide, when there's death, when there's murder, when there's real things, how do you even just dip your toe in those waters without this truth, my Bible, and praying? She goes, I don't. It can't be done. That's why I pray. And I'm like, how do you do that? She goes, I'm from Texas. I was like, oh man, stick in Colorado, right? And my wife could care less about that too. She's like, hey, I'm doing it because this is effective. Yeah. If I truly care about this kid, I will not lie to this kid, right? I will remind them of their worth. I will tell them who they are in Christ, that you are the daughter, you are the son of a king. You should act like that. You should wear that today, right? Quick story. We're doing a security team training, and this was an organization that's a Christian organization. They come in, and they hired a female. When you have someone who's frisking females, you need female, right? Sure. But she was new. And she's with a bunch of guys. Come in there, and as you know, when I teach these classes, I'm just kind of getting a read. I think any good instructor or teacher should get a read of their audience and who they're talking to. And I sense something. I pick up a little something, and something in her eyes. So I lean into that whole self-worth. Like I taught this thing that was a confidence thing. Look people in the eye, shake their hands, speak loud, smile, all that kind of stuff. And we have to practice that. And I walked over and I said, this is the drill. And I don't do this always, you know this, but I said, this is going to be appropriate today. And I've walked up to people and said, simply don't shake my hand. Because it's so in us because we're polite. It's hard to not hold the door open for somebody, but to shut a door in somebody's face is very rude, right? And we raise polite children, but it's a security risk. So you got to be, I'm sorry, click, whatever, not even I'm sorry. It's just like click, that becomes a thing. Well, I didn't buzz in, so I shouldn't be let in. I didn't piggyback it off of somebody else's buzz in. Anyways, so back to this, I said, I'm simply going to walk up to you and put my hand out and say, hi, I'm Jimmy, nice to meet you. And I want you to not shake my hand. Like something about me sets you off. It's like there's, whatever. Trust it, and have the confidence to not shake my hand. So I walk over to her and I go, hi, I'm Jimmy. And she goes, I don't shake hands, I'm so sorry. I'm like, why are you apologizing? She starts crying. Hold that thought. I turn around, I go, I'm just going to start over here. Don't make a big deal. Let her have this moment. Like whatever this moment is, just let it happen. Yep. I turn around, start on the other side. Hi, Jim. They all go through their own way. I can tell she's building up her, okay, here we go. I get back to her, and I'm like, hi, I'm Jimmy. She goes, I don't shake hands. I go, Jimmy, I'm Jimmy Graham. Nice to meet you. And she's like, thank you. I don't shake hands. Good job. And she's leaking a little bit, right? So I come back over and then I start telling stories, this is a strategy. Start telling stories about how when my kids, all of them are little, they learn the word no and the power of no. Because in my life, I've seen ladies that are either in my family or whatever that were taught you don't say no to men, right? Well, Uncle so-and-so's creepy. I don't care. Hug him anyway. You're embarrassing me. You don't say no to men. And you don't say it that way, but we were taught, all the boys too. You don't say no to men. This is an adult man, right? The problem is when we turned 18, there was never another class on actually there's a time to say no to men. So all these women get thrust out and they just get devoured, right? Because they didn't know how to say no, right? Again, she's crying, right? And it's just we talk about it, we do all this stuff. At the end, I always offer up questions, and her hand goes up. I say, yeah, question. And remember the room. It's all the security folks. She's the new person, small, in stature, small person. And she says, I got a question. How do I have more backbone? Wow. Like that takes strength to ask that question, period, sure. But in this room. And I tell her that's amazing. There would have to be more conversations. You personally, I'm not even going to go pretend that I know the answer to this. But let's talk in general. Generally, when people ask something like that, they were believing lies, and they didn't know they were lies. And it's been so long, they're not even sure what the truth is, right? So for somebody, and put this anywhere you want, right? When you see people repeating lies, this nation, people started saying things, you started believing it. Then you started repeating it. Then you forgot what the truth was, and now you're a slave. You're trapped. You're weak. You got to get rid of that, right? You got to get rid of it. So she's nodding her head and all this stuff. And I said, I don't know what those lies are, but I would expose them. I'd reveal that truth, find the truth, know the truth, and the truth will set you free, right? Somebody said that once. Weird, right? Again, in the Bible, if you understand that how true that is, right now, where do you get your truth? We are slaves, prisoners, weak, right? But the truth says we're not. And you go, wait a minute, what do you mean? Like if you know that truth, you'll be free again. So learn that truth, start saying it. There's a book out there that says, this is what you say. Your lies don't live in me. Not just with your words, but with your deeds. Your lies don't live in me. I'm going to go do this because I know that it's true, right? And then people see that, and then it keeps going. So I think that getting back to the truth. Oh, by the way, I get a text from her boss on the way back. Yeah. And he says, what an amazing day. Thank you so much. We're in a bus. We all bussed up there, and amazing conversations going back. And this individual said, this is one of the best days of my life. I'm like, yes. I got to just be a part of that by doing what? By just saying true words. That's it. And now all of a sudden there's a different trajectory. And then, the boss, he was saying too, we've seen this. This is like, there's a thing in her that wants to be powerful, and we've been feeding into that, and it's an amazing thing, and now I'm part of it, right? Yeah. So it's just super, super cool. And I love it. So,
and there's no mistaking as you watch people go through the Able Shepherd program, they stand taller, they walk straighter, they are more determined. There's something to that.
Yeah.
And when you're a part of it, it's magical. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
More people need that.
And it's crazy how there's so many platforms that could be the entrance into much more important conversations, right? And this happens to be one of them because it's cool, it's fun, it's exciting, a little bit dangerous. So it gets people in the door. Then all of a sudden, these true words are spoken. They're like, "What's going on here?" And then you earn a conversation saying, "You're not following me. If you really want to know who you're following, I'm aspiring to be the person that Christ told me to be." Right? That's why it's attractive. It's not Jimmy. Right? It's like this is really what's attractive to you is this thing that I'm trying to do, right? Like I said, if I trip and fall down, you're going to see Jesus, and if you don't, you shouldn't be following me. Right? And please help pick me up, and if you surpass me, let me follow you because at least it's the right path, right? So what are we going to do about it? That's always the question of the day when people are like, people know the problems. Yep. Almost daily, I'm in conversations where everybody knows the problem, but nobody knows what to do. This came up again last night in conversation over dinner. We are in a war of good and evil. So do good. Because anytime you do good, it tips the scales towards good, right? Every single time. And it's not one monumental big thing most of the time. It's a million little things. Yeah. And that builds credibility. And all of a sudden, people want to go. So they want to join you. They want to go that there's something in me that feels right. So it's easy to look at Uvaldle, back to this in our last podcast. It's easy to look at them and say, they knew what needed to be done, but nobody wanted to take a step. That's filling our country. We can blame those dudes and throw rocks at the police. It's happening almost in every household. Well, I know what to do, but if somebody goes, I'll go. If somebody goes, I'll go, right? Because that courage gives birth to courage, right? So if I say, on me, and take a step, then people start coming in there, right? If somebody would have stood up and grabbed that guy in the subway, maybe, other guys might have come. Maybe. It just depends on those people, right? But definitely what the answer is, well, somebody will go, and once they go, maybe I'll follow. No. And I'm like, I don't believe you would. You know what I mean? Because nothing in you, just speaking to a fictitious person, nothing in you, as long as I've known you, says you would go. Not one thing. So I don't think you would go, right? So now the person going, I'm going to be the guy to step, and maybe they'll follow. Wait a minute. I know all of them. They're not following me. I'm truly alone. Okay? That doesn't give birth to courage, right? No. But if I say on me and then I go, especially if I trust you, even if I don't know you, and then you come, it gives me more courage, and it gives you courage. And you're like, hey, man, I'm not going to. So you know this. I was in a helicopter crash, and I said, I'm going to go. I'm going to crawl under a burning helicopter, right? And other people told me later, like, I'm not letting Jimmy go alone. Right? So they came with me, and I appreciate they're handing me stuff to dig with. We're pulling people out, all this other stuff. But it was like, everybody's telling it's going to blow up. And it's like, yeah, it was scary, but it's like, man, I can't, my guys are in there. So I jumped up there, and they were trying to free a guy. But it was very, very scary. But it wasn't a question. It's like, you can't not go. Like, what do you, and so, well, actually you can, because a lot of people left that were in the helicopter. These aren't SEALs. They took off. They knew the guy. We didn't know the guy, but I know a guy shouldn't burn up, right? Yeah. So we just start trying to do whatever we can and trying to do this. But once one guy goes, everybody goes. Good. And they're right there with you. And it gave me confidence that if this thing crushed me or something, they do their best to get me out. You know, it's like, dang it. And that's the thing. I've had a lifetime to kind of digest that. But everybody likes to point at, those guys didn't go, those guys didn't go. And I'm like, man, I'm seeing a nation of people not going.
Not going.
Do good. Pick a fight. Make sure it's a righteous fight, because right now you see a lot of people, again, milk and honey, a lot of these suburban families going, I'm going to pick a fight, and then it's not a righteous fight. I'm going to pick a fight with another Christian or with the church or whatever. It's like, hey, your sights, you need to check your windage, brother, because the fight's over there. Yeah. And I know you need to feel powerful, so you're starting to fight so you can win it. It wasn't a righteous fight, okay? So now you're part of the problem, actually. So be part of the solution, and consider that maybe the problem's you, and that's called accountability. Fix that, and now go pick a righteous fight and then go win it. Again, there's a war of good and evil. Anytime you do good, it tips the scales for good, right? So, and don't be asking permission, man. People are asking permission of, like, back to Uvaldle. Well, we didn't know who's in charge. I did. You're the only one there. Take control of that particular situation and go do what you're supposed to do. Go do good. So what can be done? I would reduce it to this: expose lies, reveal the truth, know the truth, and the truth will truly set you free. Your lies don't live in me, right? They're coming. We're being bombarded with lies. To say literally with your words and absolutely with your deeds, your lies don't live in me. Because as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. And deal with it. Yep. And that's sustainable. And people say there's strength there, and then they call you. I said this yesterday in one of the trainings. You know how many guys are so ready? They're so ready with their guns and their this and their that and their wit and all their master's degree. You are so ready for the call you'll never get. It's like, if you don't have character and if you haven't built that credibility, that currency of trust, you'll never get a phone call. Yeah. And you'll die ready. Good for you, but not really. Right? Final thoughts, brother.
Final thoughts. How do you wrap this one up? There's a lot going on in my head, and one thing that you and I have talked about before, and there's a song I listen to that reiterates this. You were born for a time like this. You were born for this exact moment. Yeah. Don't wait. Don't let your neighbor stand up and do it. Just look around what's happening right now. Pick very traditional, wonderful cities. New York, D.C., Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, Seattle. That's a list of active train wrecks that are imploding. Spend some time. Figure out what's important for you. Elect the right officials and get this turned around, because it's not getting better right now, and people have got to take action today.
Amen. For a final thought, I would just throw out that The problem is we the people.
Yep.
The solution is we the people. If we don't model strength right now, there won't be any. Like our kids are watching, and there used to be a very common phrase. How do you know how to change a tire? My dad taught me. How do you know how to shoot a gun? My dad taught me, right? A more common phrase nowadays would be YouTube. Man, be careful what's going into your kid's head.
Yep.
Right? Be careful the examples that you put in front of your children. I've told grown men, when do you start with our kids? I'm like, I disagree, because I would not put you in front of my kids, because you're a mess. It's my job as a parent to provide options to my children, and you're not one of them. And they're like, ow! And I don't think anybody's ever told them that. But my hope is that they went home and said, how about I become a good option, right? An option of strength.
Yep.
And if they didn't, that's not on me. But what is on me is to keep trying to model that as best I can, as my pastor Jeff says at Brave Church, not perfectly, but increasingly. And every day I truly believe I'm getting better, right? As a man, as strength, not the toxic masculinity, no righteous masculinity. I believe that in my heart, that I am getting better than I was last year, and that's a pretty good trajectory. I don't think it's fast enough, so I'm actually taking measures to ramp that up and then model strength for others. So I appreciate it, brother. This has been a good one. I really need to digest more of this trip and my prayer. Please pray. Thank you so much, by the way. I got bombarded. I simply asked for a prayer request and was bombarded with prayers. There was so much support for me going to D.C. and that morning waking up, man, I was ready. I literally, if I had a physical mouthpiece, it's like, why are you wearing a mouthpiece? And like, let's do this, man. Let's go. Yeah. Right? And I wish it would have felt more productive, but we planted a seed. I went to plant a seed, and I said words that God saw, right? It wasn't easy to put my Bible on that table. It should have been easier, but I've done it now, right? And pointed to it and said, and I'll stand by that to my dying day, because it's going to get worse. I guarantee it's going to get worse, because nothing that I see says it's getting better. But I don't ever think I'm going to hang my head for saying that the truth is the answer. I believe that with my heart. So we'll keep doing what we need to do to model strength. Please continue your prayers that something that we say or do could be a piece. Again, giving glory to God. Say, glory we hand up, honor we hand out. This is honoring. Just sitting here and talking to BK is honoring both ways. When you honor someone, twice that comes back on you. But when it turns to glory, get rid of it. Hand it to God, because glory will eat you alive. It'll destroy your life. So that's what we're going to do. And you're invited. Awesome. So, Father God, thank you for yet another amazing podcast. Continue working us and bless us, watch over us, and guide us in this path. Let others join us so that we can be one unified voice that will be safer for everyone. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, last shout out to Able Nation. Consider joining this fight. We're going to launch. I shouldn't even be saying this yet. We're getting ready to launch Patreon. So Patreon's another way you can get involved and support Able Shepherd specifically. Able Nation is not Able Shepherd. It's part of it. I'm a part of it, co-founder of it with Neil. But right now, Able Nation is leading and going through with product, with scholarships, with products to protect our nation's children. It's a very good thing to consider, so please don't forget about them, especially year end and all that stuff with taxes. But wars need to be funded. They just do, and Able Nation is doing that. So contact Neil at able-nation.org. And until BK and I see you again, we love you guys. God bless each and every one of you. Take care of one another.